How to create a charge and raise an invoice in PPS. Now there are a few different ways of creating a charge, probably the most common of which is from an appointment. So when you double click an appointment to complete it, you'll see that in this billing window we have a few options, and the first of which is create a charge and invoice later. And what that will do is create a charge, which will then be populated and popped onto the client log, which we can raise an invoice for at a later time. So if I navigate to the client log, we'll now see that charge is there and it's in green, meaning that I know it's ready to be invoiced at any point. Now the other option to create a charge would be on an ad hoc basis, which you can do from the taskbar on the left hand side by clicking create a charge, which will bring up this window here. So this window will allow you to allocate any appropriate details, such as the practitioner, a location and a department. It will also allow you to select the date and then the charge for which you are raising. So I can choose from the drop down menu here, or I can type in my charge code if I know it, which will then bring up the appropriate charge. So once I've selected from that drop down menu, it will automatically fill in the charge type and description, and then bring through the cost that's associated. At this point I can also add a procedure code if that's applicable, and any additional notes at the bottom here. We can also then choose whether the charge is being raised against the client or whether we're going to be billing a third party. And once you've raised that charge, you can click OK to go straight to invoice or payment, so we can invoice that immediately. Or if we're just happy to raise the charge at this point, we can click onto OK to add that to the client log. So now you'll see I've got a couple of charges building up on my client log, and when I'm ready I can raise an invoice which includes all or either of those charges by going to the taskbar on the left hand side and choosing raise an invoice. And what this will do is show me the client that I'm looking at the moment, and at the bottom I'll see a list of the charges that have not yet been invoiced, and I can choose from those charges which I want to include in this invoice that I'm raising today. So I can unselect any charges by just clicking that tick box on the left hand side, and you'll see that will then update the total on the right hand side here, so I know exactly what I'm invoicing for today. If I want to include all charges, I can simply leave them all ticked and go straight to create an invoice at the bottom here. That will then bring me to this window here where I can decide whether I've issued that invoice, so if I'm sending that off to the client, and I can mark if that's been paid. So if it has been paid, I can tick that box here, select the date on which it was paid and the payment method from the drop down menu. If at this stage we're just invoicing, we can simply go to preview and print, which will allow me to then preview the invoice if I need to, or I can go directly to emailing that to the client, which will create a PDF copy of the invoice and then pop that over to them via email, or I can print it and hand it to the client right there and then. Now alternatively, some of you may not work directly from the client log, and you may be familiar with clicking on accounts at the top here and then accounts again, which will bring you to the client's account window. And if I click in the top left hand corner to new, you'll notice I have the same options that I have from my taskbar, so the same option to raise a new charge and raise a new invoice. Those options will do exactly the same as what we've just looked at on the taskbar on the left hand side. It's just a different way of getting to those options.